Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. Jeff Hendrickson is my guest. Jeff is the fisheries supervisor for the Southwest District. We're going to preview prospects for ice fishing. Now, Jeff, you've got a lot of nice little lakes in your district.
Yeah, southwest North Dakota, there's a lot of small lakes such as, the bigger small lakes are Lake Chida, Bowman Haley, Patterson Lake. And they all three offer walleye, northerns, panfish, and some pretty good fisheries right now. They're in pretty decent shape.
Right, so how's it looking? I mean, take into account fishing during the summer, and how does that transcribe into the winter ice fishing months?
Yeah, one thing in the southwest, people need to be a little cautious because we don't always have drive-on ice conditions. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to get out there. So that makes some of our lakes not very accessible to ice fishing. But on most winters they're going to get 10 inches of ice, so you can walk out there. A lot of the lakes are pretty decent fisheries in them. So.
All right, pick one of those nice little lakes that you were talking about earlier. Tell me what it is, where it is, and how anglers go about fishing it. Do they fish structure? Do they look for deep holes?
A popular place is Lake Chida in between Glen Ellen and Elgin. Lake Chida is really popular for walleye, perch.
There's some big walleyes in there.
Yeah,
too.
Some nice walleye, nice perch, nice crappie. And lately we've been getting good bluegill numbers in there too. But that's a very good lake, and a lot of the fishing there is associated with the channel.
Oh, you find the old river channel.
Yep.
It
seems like the deeper places. One thing, I've caught walleyes in 4 feet of water there too. So it varies. It depends on the day. You got to move around, and see what's going on. Most of the luck though I've had is deeper, at 20 to 30 feet.
I know you've got some very good northern lakes in your district. Pick one and do the same thing. Tell me how you go about it. Either spearing or tip-ups or whatever.
Yeah, Patterson Lake right in Dickinson is a good place for spearing. It's got really good northern numbers in it.
Good water clarity.
Good water clarity, depends on the year, good water clarity. Another one, Bowman Haley and Lake Chida. All three of our larger reservoirs have good pike numbers, and typically they're a little shallower.
All right, give me a panfish lake.
Panfish right now are doing very well in southwest North Dakota. Just about every lake that we list with bluegills in it has quality bluegills, and a fair number of them, like 8 to 10 inch bluegills. Mott Watershed was really good this summer. I suspect there will be really good fishing. Sheep Creek is always a good bluegill fishery.
All right, they fish those kind of the same way that you would fish any panfish?
Yeah, I've never had much luck for bluegills in the wintertime, but typically when I have caught them, it's been in the channel again. It seems like, the smaller reservoirs like Sheep Creek, if you're in the deeper part of the lake in the channel, it seems like they're stacked in there, literally stacked in there.
All right.
If you get into them.
It's great advice. Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Fred Ryckman joins us now. Fred is the fisheries supervisor for the Northwest District of the state. Fred, your district is probably not known as a real ice fishing hotspot, yet you do have some real jewels in your district.
Yeah, there are certainly some good waters in the Northwest. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of new waters, and a lot of the opportunistic ones, or whatever you call a lot of the south central or southeast part of the state type waters. But we still have the traditional waters up there, and actually the water conditions have stayed fairly good. We had some good rain events last summer that kept water levels up, and so we're not in too bad a shape, and we still have some decent fisheries. Yeah. Based
on success over the summer and fall, how would you characterize prospects for winter fishing?
Well, I think, again, some of the lakes that have the better populations of fish going right now are pretty good. The water levels are up, and we had some places that were quite good this fall, so I expect some of those are typically the case. Once they freeze over, good fishing continues.
What I want you to do, Fred, is pick one of your best walleye lakes and tell me how anglers go about finding fish on the lake. Do they look for deep holes? Do they fish weed lines?
Okay, well, we have a couple of them that are probably categories for targeting this winter. McLeod at Ray, but probably Northgate Dam up in the south of the town of Northgate is probably the best walleye lake in the Northwest right now, and it has a lot of weed lines on it, good structure in it. It's an impoundment on an old creek, so it has some deeper channels along it, and they usually fish along the weed lines or a few rock piles out there too. There's some nice rocks in the lake.
Just a matter of going out and doing some searching.
Do some searching, or the guys that again have fished it in the summertime and know some of these locations, they'll go back and ice fish them too.
Pick a northern lake for me, Fred, both for spearing and for, say, tip-ups, live bait fishing.
Okay, well, the last couple of years, Cottonwood Lake has probably been the most active and had a really good pike bite going on, and that was one of the first lakes we opened for spearing in the Northwest, so they'd been doing some of those, spearing some pike in Cottonwood Lake at the Alamo. And then Powers Lake, the lake right at the town of Powers Lake, last winter was really good, and this summer was really good for northern pike, and so I expect quite a few pike to come out of Powers Lake again this year too.
Most of the guys, Fred, that I've talked to will now pick a panfish lake. In your case, you can pick panfish and or trout.
Well, panfish-wise, we do pretty well at Trenton Lake. The guys were walking out there on a couple inches of ice and trying to get after those crappie right away. They're doing pretty well on that. And last winter, they did really well on crappie at Trenton Lake. And so from a crappie standpoint, that's certainly a place to go. Bluegills, Northgate Dam, again, a good population of bluegills. Some really nice fish, but a lot of 5 and 6 inch fish that guys fished really hard this last summer. They grew quite a bit, and so there's going to be some good bluegill fishing at Northgate as well. In addition, we have Blacktail and Smeshik, a number of other places that have perch and bluegill in them and some decent fish, and we'll be providing some fisheries for sure.
Fred, thanks. Joining us now is Jason Lee. Jason is the fishery supervisor for the North Central District. Jason, you've got some really good lakes in your district. Tell me, based on summer fishing, and you get a lot of that in your district, how is that going to transcribe into winter fishing?
I think it should be a good winter this winter again. Hopefully we'll have conditions where anglers can get out and get on the ice. That's always important for winter fishing. But
Sooner or later, it's going to get cool enough that we'll make ice.
Right. We've got a number of lakes that have good walleye populations and pike. So yeah, I think there'll be a lot of good opportunities this winter.
What I want you to do is pick one walleye lake. Doesn't necessarily have to be your best one, but pick one that has great potential. Tell me how anglers go about finding fish on the lake. Do they fish weed lines? Do they look for deep holes, islands?
Sure. Yeah, I'll choose Lake Audubon. I've been out there myself just a couple days ago.
That would be a likely choice.
Yeah, on some pretty thin ice. It was 4 or 5 inches at the time, but it'll cool off and it'll get better here. But yeah, when I fish Audubon, I typically look for some type of structure. Fish around islands or along, find some rocks or something like that.
Sure.
We've got contour maps available on our website, so you can download those, or you can even get them on your phone and have the contours available there. So the main thing I look for catching walleyes on Audubon is some type of change in the structure.
Same question, but a northern lake can be either spearing or tip-ups, live bait.
Sure. Yeah, Buffalo Lodge in the North Central District was really good last winter. It was #2 statewide as far as number of pike speared. So that was very popular for darkhouse spearing last winter, and I would expect to see the same again this year. We did our netting survey, had a good catch of pike. So
those are pretty sizable pike in there too.
Yeah, there's some decent sized pike in there, yeah.
All right, same question again this time, and you have the luxury of having some really nice panfish lakes.
Yeah, I'd look at bluegills up in Lake Metagoshi. Bluegills are doing really well up there. There's plenty of them. There's a wide range of sizes with some pretty good sized fish up there. So yeah, I'd look at bluegills at Metagoshi. And as far as targeting certain areas, I would look for weed lines, the edges of the weed lines. They'll tend to hang out right on the edges of those weeds, and I think that would be a good area to check out.
All right, good advice. Thanks, Jason.
You bet.
Last but not least for this segment is Dave Fryda. Dave is the fisheries supervisor for basically the Missouri River system, or in this case for winter fishing, Lake Sakakawea. I know the big lake is very healthy right now, Dave. How do things look as far as prospects for winter fishing?
Well, the fish community is actually in very good condition. The sport fish populations of both walleye and pike, things are really good. There's a lot of forage out there, which can make it somewhat difficult at times,
Sure.
but the fish are definitely there. They're in good condition, and you know, this winter ice may be the biggest, whether or not we get enough ice and when we finally get the ice. The way
Sooner
things
or later we should, huh?
we should. But
What I want you to do, Dave, now is pick an area of Lake Sakakawea. Tell me how anglers go about finding fish. Do they find them on weed lines? Do they get in the back of the bays? Something along those lines.
you know, it kind of depends from one end of the reservoir to the next. The upper end of the reservoir tends to be probably a more consistent winter bite than the lower end of the reservoir. You know, they'll bite more during the day. You know, they can catch them more on flats and less structure orientated on the upper end of the reservoir than. And as you move down the reservoir, especially the east end closer to the dam, those fish tend to be real structure orientated, sharp breaks, things like that. And the difference is the east end tends to be a fairly narrow bite at sunset for walleyes. It's not the day-long bite typically.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, you do have some great northern fishing out there. You've got some monster northerns now that have really been growing for a couple of years with all the groceries in the lake. How about spearing, tip-ups, live baiting? Pick a spot.
You know, anything, any part of the reservoir's got pike too. I mean, it's not like there's any secret spots. There's lots of pike available, and there's plenty of 15 to 20 pound pike out there now this winter. And this fall was exceptional. September to October, the few people chased them, it was really good, and it should continue through the winter.
You do, though, have a very unique fishery up on the other end of the dam that we need to talk about, and that's sauger fishing.
Yeah, the upper reservoir can have very good winter sauger fishing. You know, and even down through that stretch, what we call the river stretch from like the Newtown Bridge down to Skunk Bay, Pouch Point, stuff like that. You know, that can have pretty good sauger fishing at times. And you know, as most anglers know, they tend to be a little deeper structure orientated. They're not typically, they're deeper water fish than walleyes. But yeah, that can be very good at times. And then up reservoir toward Williston more is definitely nice sauger available.
Sure, some new fishing opportunities. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
The North Dakota Game and Fish website is full of useful information to aid in your ice fishing efforts this year. There are topographical maps of nearly every lake in the state. They'll show you points and drop-offs, deep spots or shallow spots, and likely looking places that might hold fish. There are also descriptions of each lake that will tell you if the lake contains fish and even what species. And if there's an access point on the lake, you can even access the department's fish stocking reports from previous years to see if a lake has a population of fish you might be interested in pursuing. Access the Game and Fish website at gf.nd.gov and follow the links to your favorite page. For Dave Fryda and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you on the ice.